Hello, I'm Yinchorri, and today, without any special occasion or anniversary, I will be taking a look at the turtles' presence in the Star Wars, specifically in the part of the franchise that now holds legend status. So, how about a brief introduction to the division between Legends and Canon? In 2012, Disney acquired the rights to the franchise from George Lucas, and on April 25, 2014, they announced that what had been listed so far was irrelevant. In a sense, you could call it a reboot, with the basic framework retained. The sixth film in the saga, the Clone Wars film, and the Clone Wars TV series remained canonical, while everything else, books, comics, and games, or TV series like Droids and Ewoks, generally lost their significance, and the universe was built from scratch. Collectively, the souls were given the Legends label, and aside from the still updated MMORPG and the Old Republic, and a few minor exceptions, they are no longer being developed. Trotter are still being released under the Legends banner, which likely confused many people. Okay, enough of this long introduction. Let's move on to turtles and turtle-like creatures. To kick things off, the Yinchorri race, which debuted in issue 86 of Marvel's comic series, published in 1984. The script was written by Randy Stradley, who would later become a key figure in the next Star Wars comic publisher, Dark Horse. But more about him in just a second. In these comics, Raya finds herself on Yinchorri, traveling with the representative of a previously unseen race, the Yinchorri. I won't summarize the story, that's not the point. It's about turtles, and this, well, whether Yinchorri are turtles is debatable, and we'll get to that in a moment. First, other appearance of the Yinchorri themselves. Mentioned Randy Sanders likes his own creation, as we return to the planet Yinchorri in Crimson Empire, published at the turn of 1997 to 1998. This is the comic that he covered. However, the Yinchorri themselves don't appear there. The situation is different in the 4-issue series Jedi Council, Acts of War, published in year 2000. They play a key role there, and we learn new things about this race, such as the fact that they are naturally resistant to the Force and mind tricks. And they also appear in other comic stories, most notably in the Devaluing version, issues 40 and 41 of the Star Wars series, which are in a sense a humorous retelling of the story from Acts of War. But they don't add anything new to the lore of these turtle characters. Exactly, turtles. It's hard to tell from their appearance alone. They don't have the most turtle-like feature, shells. They are definitely reptilian, and we find mention of this in many sources, including the 2001 Alien Anthology, the 2003 Ultimate Alien Anthology, and the 2005 The New Essential Chronology. The key statement appeared almost 30 years after the Star Wars universe debut, in the 2012 book Darth Plagueis by James Luceno. They are described as turtle-like, and I won't argue with Luceno. The Yinchorri debuted in 1984, but they are not the oldest element I'd like to explore here today. There's also the Kadrillian race within the Legends, which debuted as early as 1980, in the newspaper strip Planet of Kadril. It had numerous reprints, so it's easy to read this story today. Their faces are very turtle-like, but the strips itself states that they evolved from Earth-like chameleons. But Wikipedia refers to them as, I quote, Kadrillians were sentient terrapins, and provide a number of sources. I checked all of them, as I have to as a serious turtle researcher. The article, The University of Sandbag Guide to Intelligent Life, the Marvel series, published in the Star Wars Gamer 1 in year 2000, mentioned the term terrapin, but it's not clearly identified with Kadrillians. The complete Star Wars Encyclopedia, however, settles the matter. The entry for Kadri mentioned the chameleon-like humanoid Kadrillian species, and states that they were exterminated during the Stenax massacres. Only a semi-intelligent species of terrapins managed to survive and eventually recolonize Kadril. So this entire long passage is about the Kadrils not being turtles in legend. But to make matters funny, in the new canon, they are turtles, and they are clearly referred to as terrapins. But not to the new canon we are dealing with today. The Yinchorri remains the only turtle race in legend that can be described as a sentient species. But over the decades of legend development, we've been given a wide variety of animals. This can be easily divided into 3 categories. Turtle-like animals with their own names, turtle-like animals without names that appears in various comics, and turtles mentioned in books. We begin our Neme turtle animals with a two-pack. Shiro from Naboo and his variant, the Shiro-Trap. The first is a creature strongly resembling a turtle, while the second one is the same creature living in symbiosis with a plant native to Naboo, the Tukatra. Both forms debuted in the relatively unknown 1999 game Star Wars Episode 1, The Gangan Frontier, released in May, competing with the release of the Phantom Menace. Our goal in the game is to manage the ecosystem on Naboo to create the conditions desired by the Gangans. Both of these creatures are among the elements appearing there. Both also appears in the 2001 book The Real Life of Star Wars, A Field Guide. Shiro also appears twice in 2004 in the comic Empire in Su 21, A Little Piece of Home Part 2, and is mentioned in Courage and Present Dangers, an online supplement to the Star Wars RPG published at the time by Wizards of the Coast. The most recent mention comes from 2008 in the complete Star Wars Encyclopedia. This massive 3-volume work doesn't include an entry for Shiro, but it does mention this creature in the entry for the Shiro-Trap. Besides the debut in the game, Shiro-Trap also appears in the aforementioned 2001 The Real Life of Star Wars, A Field Guide, and in the complete Star Wars Encyclopedia. In addition, in the year 2000, the educational game Star Wars Smart Jabba game Galaxy was released, in which Shiro-Trap is available as a pawn. In the Early Learning Activity Center, you can also spot a pet that is likely a Shiro. In Star Wars Galaxies, An Empire Divided, a 2003 MMORPG set in the Star Wars universe, now inactive for many years, there were two very large rather tooth-like animals. It seems to be essentially the same model, but used for two different creatures from two different planets. The one of the planet Talus is called Tortur, while the one on Rory, a moon of Naboo, is Torton. These characters are unique to the Galaxies ecosystem, in that meaning that outside of the game and related products, such as guides published by Prima, on online articles on the official websites, they are not mentioned anywhere else. Best unique to one place is the Tortapo. This distinctly turtle-like creature, basically a turtle with an extra pair of legs, described as a resident of the planet Bonadan. It was first described in the Essential Guide to Planets and Moons, published in July 1998, on a page describing the planet. The Essential Guide to Droids, published years later in February, also mentioned it in the text about the FLR logger. Later, the creature is mentioned in the December 2004 book Boba Fett Pursuit, which includes a reference to our world. As turtle glasses are popular in our world, here we have a reference to a pair of Tortapo shell shades. For the sake of thoroughness, I will also note that the Tortapo is mentioned in the 2006 guide for the Star Wars Empire at War game and its expansion Forces of Corruption. Moving to the only religious element still under constant development, Star Wars The Old Republic. We have advanced two turtles there. Speedy, who can be obtained and will reside in our Rishi Haidar stronghold, and two more that can be acquired as pets to accompany us in our journeys. The blonde juvenile turtle and the turquoise blue cerulean turtle. I never played the Old Republic myself, so I don't really have much more to say about it. The last gaming related thing I'd like to mention is the H7X Recron Turtle Digger vehicle, featured in Force Commander. Wikipedia list is under that name. I haven't been able to verify what they got it from, but let's just say I trust them to believe it appears somewhere in the game, which I haven't played myself. In the comics, we already mentioned one of the Empire issues where Shiro appears, so now it's time for a various individual appearance of turtles and turtle-like animals in comics. The first one is a bit of a stretch, as Tag and Bing, Revenge of the Clone Menace, released on April 26, 2006, is a parody comic and not formally a part of the Legends, but it's worth mentioning anyway. Among the tons of Easter eggs, one of them is the presence of Crash and other characters from Finding Nemo in one of the frames. In Clone Wars Adventures, Volume 9, released in October 23, 2007, in the first story in that volume, Appetite for Adventure, two frames show a pair of animals that are definitely stylized as turtles. In Star Wars Invasion, Rescues Issue 2, released on June 30, 2010, one frame shows the Great Sea of the planet Artorias, creatures that are hard to describe as anything but sea turtles are clearly visible there. Now time for Knights of the Old Republic War, Issue 3, publication date March 14, 2012. In one frame, depicting the surface of the planet Hathor, an unnamed animal appears. It has a shell that strongly suggests a turtle. I can miss the opportunity to mention that the Knights of the Old Republic comic book series is the absolute pinnacle of Star Wars for me, and I definitely recommend checking it out. I read it regularly, and I find a ton of fun every time. I will come back to one comic, the Clone Wars, The Sith Hunters, later. Now a few words about the books. In Tales from Jabba Palace, a collection of short stories by various authors, published in December 1995, the text, God Grass, The Tale of Three Eyes, written by Deborah Wheeler, mentions preserved tortoise dung in the description of the delicacies consumed by the Huts. The book itself is interesting, one of the few Star Wars books I've read. It fits the titular parts with a ton of interesting stories about characters we glimpsed on screen in Return of the Jedi. In Barbara's Humby Children of the Jedi, published in April 1995, the term mammoth turtle is used as a comparison. The book itself is considered rather weak, but hey, turtle. Another example is Michael A. Stackpole X-Wing 1, Rogue Squadron, published in January 1996. The term Go Turtle is used in one of the dialogues, and X-Wings, to balance it out, are considered one of the top literary legends. In Kevin J. Anderson and Rebecca Maesta Young Jedi Knights, Troubles in Cloud City, published in August 1998, we have a mention of a violet puffer turtle. In Kevin W. Jater's The Mandalorian Armor, published in June 1998, we find the comparison tortoise-like. In Shatterpoint by Matthew Stoller, published in June 3, 2003, a turtle appears as an element of insult, in the form of a demented, skull-chewing turtle sucker. The book itself is highly recommended. To put it simply, it's Joseph Conrad Heart of Darkness, but in Star Wars. In Fate of the Jedi Outcast by Aaron Alston, published on March 24, 2009, the turtle reference is less explicit, being used in the comparison shared marine reptile, but the context suggests it's definitely turtles. Reminding the Fate of the Jedi series. In Volume 6, Vortex, by Troy Denning, published on November 13, 2008, three turtles appears in a single mention. Chronologically, the next mention was in Dark Previous by James Luceno, published in 2012, but mentioned that at the beginning in the section about the Yinchorri race. The book itself is also one of the great elements of the old expanded universe. The last book worth mentioning is Squanders by Timothy Zahn, published on January 1st, 2013, where the term turtle vehicle appears. Now something different and much older. In the next episode of the series Ewoks, The First Apprentice, premiered on October 18, 1986, an unnamed creature appears that has a bit of an Avatar The Last Airbender vibe, looking very much like a duck turtle, a duck with a turtle shell. Another niche creature, the Gorskin, is the name of the giant turtle that lives on Doruma, a moon of the planet Almas. They were first mentioned in the Living Force Campaign Guide, published in March 2001, and it's also noticed that they resemble the Kilasin, which images we have in the Ultimate Adversaries Manual. In the Superman Broken Orbits, Depths of Doruma, published in September 2001, these turtles are referred to by the name Gorskin for the first time. They never appear again. So far, we've been talking about races, animals, or turtles used in comparisons. Finally, it's time for vehicles with turtle-like features. We won't describe every vehicle that could be considered turtle-like. With the use of just a little of imagination, there will be quite a few. Only three are clearly named as turtle or turtle-like, and we show you these ones. The first is Swell, the turtle tanker. In the new canon, this machine is officially called the TRLR-3 Terrapin class bulk tanker, but in Legends it never had a different name than turtle tanker. The name itself appears in the description on the official StarWars.com website. This machine is an interesting combination of a walker and a spaceship. From the images posted on the aforementioned official website, we also learned that this design was inspired by Goji, who is a pet turtle of Dave Filoni, creator of the Clone Wars. This vehicle appeared in 2 episodes of the Clone Wars, Brothers and Revenge, and in flashbacks in the Revival episode. It also appears in 3 frames in the comic book The Clone Wars, The Sith Hunters, published on August 15, 2012. In Battle for the Golden Sun, a book with ideas and adventures for the Star Wars RPG, published in November 1988, the naval version of the AT-AT is described as resembling a turtle. Another turtle-like vehicle is 720 Light Freighter, also known as the Gitrock 720 or Class 720 Fighter. It debuted in Timothy Zahn's book The Last Command in January 1994 and subsequently appeared in a multiple of sources. I know this ship looked turtle-like, and it was clearly described as resembling a turtle in one of the RPG manuals that Wikipedia lists as new canon. I had to search a bit at the same information in Legends, but I finally found it in the Enter the Unknown, a supplement for the Edge of the Empire role-playing game released on December 6, 2013. Finally, I will just mention that Alien Encounters, edited by James Hayston and compiled by Paul Soloff, a supplement to Star Wars the role-playing game, published by Western Games in 1998, mentions turtles. Now, a few dancing facts about turtles, which are, you may say, close to Star Wars, but haven't been officially mentioned in any source. On March 2011, we get the 25th episode of the 3rd season of The Clone Wars. The episode itself features 80 TAs, but there is almost nothing turtle about them if you don't know where to look. The supplementary materials published on the official site, starwars.com, show an image with strong turtle associations. And if you know about it, you can spot this picture on the machine in the episode. In the book The Art of Star Wars, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, published in April 2005, we can see among many pieces of concept art, one deceiving clone troopers with subtle beasts. And these beasts have shapes that strongly resemble turtle shells, trunks centrally, not snouts. Gempasa are enormous. The largest turtles aren't to appear in Legends, but this idea was abandoned during the concept stage. They were intended to be shown on the planet Grey Ansel in the 3rd episode of the 2nd season of the Clone Wars, titled Children of the Force. We first learned about them from Magic of the Colocron, available on the DVD and Blu-ray edition of the Clone Wars The Complete Season 2, published on October 26, 2010. More details were provided in The Battle of Ankara, an extra on the Blu-ray and /DVD edition of Star Wars The Clone Wars The Complete Season 4, October 2012. And the last time this topic was discussed was in the material published on the official StarWars.com website, Driving from the Imagination, Mythological Creatures in Star Wars Part 2, published on November 7, 2013. That's all for now. Thank you for watching, leave a like and subscribe if you liked it, and I hope to see you again in the next video. Bye!